Hello, everyone. Welcome to WMBT University of Health. I changed this thing yesterday, and I guess Spotify haven't had a chance to change it. But welcome to a episode that is very dear to my heart. I can't lie, and I often I said once I get situated, I was gonna start rolling out shows, and my word is my bond. Um, I work, and I share this with you guys. I work from 7:15 in the mornings to 11:15, and then the rest of the day I'm off until 5 o'clock. So I have a lot of time to sit and just work on stuff. But today, and I don't know if a lot of you guys know this, but I am a practitioner, doctor, lifestyle medicine. I'm not a coach. I don't like that word coach because I'm not here to coach nobody. I'm here to state facts. I take what I do very seriously. Um Not saying all coaches, but some coaches they don't want to work with those doctors, and I'm that's not me. I want to work with the doctors. I want to see what we can come up with. And my goal is to come up with a formula in the natural realm that can really calm Parkinson down. Now, I did come up with something, and I used it with my mother, and I'm going to get into that. I used it with my mother, and it actually helped. I'm not going to lie, it actually helped. The medicine that they had her on, the medicine was so strong until it made her climbing the walls. And when I say climbing walls, I mean actually climbing walls. So I took her off of that medicine. The medicine, like I said, was taking her crazy. So I've been pondering this and pondering this and pondering this. And I came to the conclusion I worked hard to get to where I'm at today. And I have a good following, excuse me, and I continue want to have a good following. Oh, excuse me. But now, since I'm settled and I know what I'm trying to do, we're going to be really hitting hard on some hard medical facts. And we're going to bring in the holistic part. Now, there's a lot of people out here that teach on Parkinson. Um, they teach on it. Maybe 2% have experienced it. But for me, I experienced it. I seen what my mother went through, and I just kind of want to share. So I just want to share some outline on this, and bear along with me because I am going to be reading off of my notes. But you have many people that say different things. But me, this is my specialty. I specialize in Parkinson disease. I might wave off on different other subjects, but Parkinson, and I because I promised my mother, I said I am going to stand with you with this, and I'm going to share your story. Now, at one time, I was going to be a Parkinson disease ambassador, and I kind of like let it go, but I'm probably going to end up picking it back up. But today, I just want to share with you all and what I'm trying to get done and how I'm trying to get it done. Because this is something that needs to be brought out. And what really made me do it was when I seen Michael J. Fox. Now, thank God, thank God, my mother did not go through what Michael J. Fox is going through. She did not go through that. Um, when she started the Tremors, there's a company, and I'm going to get the name of the company that use all natural. And what they did, they created a pill that helped slows down the tremors. And it was all natural. And I would give it to her every day, 3 times a day, 2 small pills. And it really worked. It really worked. And so, thank God she did not have the complications that Michael is having. And my heart goes out to Michael, and I wish him nothing but the best. But I lived it, and I'm sure that Michael's wife can say, "Yeah, I lived it." All right, the podcast is a series, and it's Parkinson with a purpose. What is Parkinson disease really? And I'm sharing this story in 2010. I was visiting someone, and I got a call from my children, and they said, "Mommy, Grandma has failed." I said, "Okay, out now from where I lived at and to where I was at least about a good 30 or 40 minutes away." And I said, "Get her to the hospital. I will meet y'all at the hospital." When she fell, my mother was the type of person that she really didn't say much. Um, she really didn't cry. But they said that when she fell, said she started crying. And they said right then and there they knew something was wrong. Now, I want to back up a little bit. I want to hold my point right here, but I want to back up a little bit. My mother was on a diet when we lived in Virginia because of her high blood pressure. And so many people, they go out here and get these crazy diets and all of this stuff when in actuality you don't need it. And I'm gonna share with you what my mother's dietitian had told her. They say every time you eat half. So it's like this, if you have a plate of corn, take half that corn away. Um, Chicken. If you're gonna have chicken, only eat a leg or a wing. If you got bread, cut that bread in half. And my mother stayed on that diet for years because she was going through a lot of stress, and her blood pressure kept going up and down, up and down, up and down until the doctor said, "No, no, no, we're going to do this." And so when she started doing it, was it hard? Yeah, it was really hard for her. But when she got to really getting into it, she had no problems. Well, because she stayed with that diet, she didn't want to eat certain things. We all know that protein is good. Well, there were certain things that she didn't like that had proteins, and it was very hard. So when she failed, she really didn't have much to really break the bones, if you understand what I'm saying. So once they got, once we got there and they got her admitted to the hospital, they said, "We're going to have to do surgery." I said, "Okay." I said, "I was always taught that if you do surgery, it could kill her." And the doctor looked at me and he said, "Nowadays, if we don't do the surgery, it can kill her." I said, "Do what you got to get done." I was just honest. I said, "Do what you got to get done." So After they did her surgery, she came out beautiful. The doctor said for her age, she came out perfect. No problems at all. They were able to do what they had to do and just left it alone. Well, all of a sudden, there was another doctor that came in, and he was very nasty. And I promised myself I would never get like this doctor. I said, "Sir, when did she get Parkinson? When did all this come up?" And I remember he looked at my face. "Are you the doctor?" And I looked at him. I said, "No, but that's my mother. When did she get Parkinson?" And he couldn't say anything. And I talked to her doctor, and he said, "Yeah, he can get kind of rough." No, 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 no. There's no roughness to it. She's a patient. Talk to us. Let us know what the circumstances are. Just don't sit and say, "Oh, she got Parkinson." Well, they put her on this medication. And when I tell you that medication had her climbing the walls, it was terrible. And it's like, okay, all right. So, but I had to learn how to do research. I had to learn because there was no warning signs. There was no symptoms. There was nothing. Matter of fact, we never heard of the word Parkinson disease. There was nothing. So once I learned how to really do some research, I began to understand it. And Parkinson did not look what the Parkinson that my mother had did not look like Michael J. Fox. I seen him on a program. He was either he was getting an award or he was awarding something. I don't know. And my heart just sunk. He couldn't even hardly walk. And I'm like, my Lord, what in the world? Now, on a religious, spiritual side, I believe that Michael could be healed. But here is the thing with celebrities, they don't believe, some of them don't believe in the power of God. My mother had not went to the hospital after she came out of the hospital in 2010. I went to Africa, came back, my mother was doing fine. And then all of a sudden, she was getting those little TIs. And I'm like, what in the world? Once again, had no idea. So when we took her to the hospital in April of 2017, I never will forget. The doctor called me outside and he told me, I give her 2 weeks. Do not try to make her feel better. Let nature take its course. And at the time, my daughter was working at the hospital. She said, Mommy, I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word. He said, I'm going to order hospice and they're going to come in. And I said, okay. Once again, I still did not say a word. Once I got her home, once I got her home, and she was all alone, she looked at me and she said, "He sent me here to die." I didn't say anything because how can you tell your mother that? You know what I'm saying? So what I did was I said, "Mama, don't worry about it. You know you're gonna be fine. Don't worry about it." And I remember she looked at me in my face. She said, "My life is in your hand." And I looked at her and I'm like, "Wait a minute. That is a heavy burden to put on somebody." But I said, "Okay." She said, "You know how to do things. You was a nurse. My life was in your hands." Now, Parkinson shows no signs, just like high blood pressure. You could be walking today and have a stroke. Give a good example. My ex-husband, he, him and one of his girlfriends, they went out camping, and he called me. I never forget. He said, "Michelle, I gotta get to the hospital. Please get here." I'm like, "Huh?" And I never forget. The girl met me up at a store called Cumberland Farms, and she said, "Take him, please, take him." And he got in the car. I said, "Hey, let's go," because it was dealing with his back. I said, "Let's go to the walk-in clinic." And he kept fighting me. "Please get me to the hospital, please." So right then and there, I pushed the pedal to the metal and I flew to the hospital. Once I got him there and they checked him, I never forget. The doctor and I, we were laughing and talking. About that time, they sent an EKG in and they put the code up. He said, "That's him." I'm like, "Oh my God. Oh my God. What happened? What? What?" What had happened, he had had a massive heart attack. And the cardiologist came to me. He said, "If you would have got him here, he would have died." Well, that's how Parkinson is. In some different types of Parkinson. We didn't know. We didn't know. So when hospice came, they came in to do their little thing. Next thing you know, well, we just gonna tell you the facts, make her comfortable because the doctor gave her 2 weeks, and I told her, I said, I'm gonna tell you this. She put her life in my hands, and I am not gonna play with this. You all are not gonna come up in this house and talk all that negative talk. We're gonna work together as a team without all that talking. Now, we don't talk enough about Parkinson disease and what it looks like. You only see things on TV and what you hear, but to actually talk about Parkinson disease, we do not talk about it much. We talk about Alzheimer's, we talk about this, we talk about that, but we do not talk about Parkinson disease. And it's sad. There are common myths about Parkinson's disease. it only happens to old people. That's a lie. Look at Michael J. Fox. He was diagnosed with Parkinson at the age of 20. You can see it coming. That's another lie. Because we did not see it coming. Everyone shakes. That is a double lie. Because not everyone shakes. Oh, well, Michael J. Fox is the only one. No, no, no. You'd be surprised of how many people walking around here today have Parkinson's disease, but they don't know it. Those are the myths, and that's wrong. It's wrong. It don't only happen to old people. What Parkinson actually is a neurologic generative disorder that affects the brain. It impacts movement, sleep, digestion, moods, and so much more. It looks different in every single person. Tremors are common, but they're not always present. And that's the truth. They're not always present. Why does Parkinson even exist? You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised. Why am I doing this podcast? Because people deserve to hear the truth. Because a real stories like my mother matters. Because lifestyle changes, medicine, and compassion can change lives. I honor Michael J. Fox's wife for not turning her back on him. I honor her because she could have very easily said, you know, one thing, forget this. I didn't sign up for this. But she didn't. I honor Michael for trying to start up a foundation that speaks about it. But now I'm talking on a spiritual side. A spiritual side. But there's a God that heals. There's a God that can do miracles. But we first have to want to get out of our pride. And don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that Michael has pride. But me, I have to share my story with this. I come from a apostolic background. I came from when people get baptized, they come up healed. I came from when you fast, you get connections with God. That's where I came up from. And even though my mother lasted for 7 years, I thank God. God would give me formulas to create. And I'm going to share some of those formulas with you all. This is going to be a series. I'm going to share some of those formulas with you all. Because of the simple fact is I know what it did for my mother. Now, yes, there are some powerful medicines out there. But I also have learned if you don't have the right type of insurance, you can't get them. My ex-husband, one of the pills that he takes costs $700. That's that real good medicine. Even his heart doctor said it because he was on a good insurance. The doctor said we got him on some good medicine. Well, guess what? That good medicine costs a lot of money. Guess what? Some people do not have that kind of insurance. Look at United Health. My heart went out to the people that said how that insurance company kept denying claims. My ex-husband's insurance, when he was at the hospital, I spoke to the doctor himself. And the doctor said, I got a call from the CEO. I said, man, you lying. He said, no, I'm not. And he said that the CEO told me, do not let Mr. Purdue out of that hospital until he is well enough to go and he is on the best medications. I said, you lying. He said, no, I'm not. I can show you the phone call. And he said, we don't normally get calls like that. So, why not learn to change your lifestyle? Why not learn how to go about doing things? We're going to explore how daily habits, movement, sleep, nutrition can impact the brain and how it can take control of your health journey. We're going to learn this. When my mother, I never forget, when I pulled her off all that medicine, I never forget this. I said, Lord, I don't know what I'm doing. But she put her life in my she put her she put her life in my hands. Please help me. And I learned how to do research. I learned how coconut oil plays a very vital point in Parkinson disease. I learned that. I learned that walnut that looks like a brain, plays a very vital point in Parkinson disease. Turmeric plays a very vital point. And I remember I remember going up to one of the Indian stores and I bought some of that real turmeric. And I remember coming back home and I said, Mommy, I gotta make you something. I said, I'm just going by what I did some research. So what I did was I got some turmeric and I put some honey in it. And I would stir it around and make it like a elixir, like a cough syrup like thing. And what I would do, I would give her a teaspoon 3 times a day. Then, when hospice came, the doctor knew me. He said, "Oh my goodness, Miss Shara." And he looked at my mother. He said, "This girl right here, I'm not worried about it now." He looked at my mother and he said, "I'm not worried about it now." He said, "Because I know that you're in good hands with her." And he was telling my mother, you raised a good daughter, yada, 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 yada. And I remember him and I was talking. And I said, "I want to try something." He said, "Okay." I said, "I want to try giving her a teaspoon of coconut oil every day." He said, "Okay." He said, "Do a trial with her first." And what I would do, I wanted to do a trial with it. I remember going to Publix and getting that real good coconut oil. That stuff was expensive. And I remember giving her a teaspoon. She didn't know why I was giving it to her. But I said, "Hey, this is good for you." I gave her the coconut oil. Her mind would be like a 60-year-old woman. She was focused. But when I didn't give her the coconut oil, she fell back into depression. I said, "Okay." Then I read an article about a man that had Parkinson's disease. And people don't want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to share something with you. On our next episode, I'm going to show to you the brain and what science shows about Parkinson. But I read an article. Because I truly, truly, truly wanted to learn. And in this article, I think it comes from prevention. I think an article came from prevention. Come to think about it, it did come from prevention. Yes, it did. Where this man had Parkinson's disease. He went to the doctor diagnosed it. He came back home. He didn't want to take all that medicine. He looked at his wife. He said, we're gonna gut out this house. We're gonna eliminate everything in this house. From aerosol cans to whatever else that we felt, that they felt, that need to be eliminated. Now, according to the doctors, there is no cure for Parkinson. But I am a firm believer it is, if the people would change their lifestyle. Okay? They detoxed the house. The house was nothing but a canvas. A chair in the living room, no books, no nothing. The chair, the couch, everything. That was it. Won't nothing. Won't nothing. The kitchen, pots and pans. They had their seasonings. They had pulled out all meats. All meats. And they had leafy greens and all of that in there. Okay. Bedroom. Nothing in their bedroom but a bed and a dresser. They didn't even have the wife didn't even have no makeup. They detoxed their house. and only start using natural things. And she kind of learned how to make natural things like making natural perfumes and all that type of stuff. Went back to the doctor in 6 months, and the doctor looked at him. He said, "Hold out your hands." He held out his hands. He said, "I want you to go walking." Because Parkinson also is not balanced. He said, "I want you to go walking." He said, "Whatever you did," now I'm going by what the book said. He said, "Whatever you did, it cured you from Parkinson." And the person that wrote the story, the journalist that wrote the story, said that the guy said, all these chemicals and all the stress that is piled up on us is not natural, and which is not. All the stress that you go through, crying, this ain't right, that ain't right, this, that stuff doesn't do nothing but work on your mind. And then when it started doing that, different things started coming through. And from then I learned, even dealing with my mother, I learned. Even in her bedroom, we made her bedroom, I mean, the bedroom was small, it was cluttered because you got hospice bringing in stuff, we trying to do stuff. It was, oh my God, it was a mess. But I'm very grateful that when she died in peace. Now, she could be living today, but she gave up. She battled with a lot of depression. And I want to say this, like I did the show yesterday. Stop being content. I remember she called me to her room and she told me, she said, "I have nothing to show for why I've been on this earth." And I said, "Well, mommy, don't," she said, "No, no, no. I've been so busy." And which she's telling the truth. Because her sisters will have children. And she had to take care of her children. She had to take care of her sister's children. While her so-called twin sister went to college to be a RN nurse. She was like the black sheep of the family. And it was like, I said, "But mommy, you did." She said, "No, I didn't." My birthday is December the 30th. I remember on my birthday, I stayed at home. I didn't do anything because normally on my birthday I mostly stay in and do a lot of reflecting. And I remember I went in the room and she was sleeping. I came out and I went back and she was awake. I said, "Hey, do you know what day it is?" She said, "It's your birthday." She said, "Happy birthday." I walked out the room and I cried. The next day, I went back in the room. She was asleep. And something said, "Take her blood pressure." The blood pressure was going down. Her feet had begun to turn. I looked at her. And I remember the day before all this happened, she called me in the room. And she said, "You have been so good to me." She said, "You took care of me." She said, "I know I was complicated at times. And me and you would go at it." And she was right. She said, "But overall, you took care of me. And I just want to let you know that I love you." Because of her, this is the reason why I'm a doctor now. Because she always wanted me to be a lawyer, but I wanted to do something that can help people. We have 10 episodes on this particular subject, Parkinson. And I'm going to teach it because it needs to be heard. Clean out your room. Don't have it cluttered up. Make sure your bed is clean, is purified. If you want to, me, I use laundry sauce. Now, I love my laundry sauce because it has the perfume already in it. So I don't need to put no perfumes on. I already have it. I just got my box came in yesterday. But make sure your bathrooms and things are clean. Make sure your whole house is clean. If you got chemicals, get rid of them. Learn how to make your own. If you smoke, stop smoking. Stress. Learn to step back. I would rather make less money and be happy than to make a lot of money and be stressed out. Travel. Do something that you never wanted to do. I'm going to come out with my own cooking show. Learn how to do something. Parkinson is not a joke. It too is a silent killer, just like high blood pressure. Thank you all for listening to the show. I know me, you all are kind of like, what in the world? But I've had to step into what I'm called to do. And what I'm called to do is to help heal people. I have a book on Amazon. I'm going to get the link. And it's called God's Medicine. But the way that I created it was kind of different. Affirmations. Or either go to buy my coffee, something like that. I might create something and put and download it on there as well. But your body is the temple of God. Take care of it. I want to live to get 120 years old. I do. My family look at me and say, "What? I want to live. If Moses lived that long, why can't I live that long?" Learn how to deal when you're stressed. And when you learn how to deal with that, you are able to understand it better. Until tomorrow, thank you for listening at WMBT University of Health and our program, our series on Parkinson's disease. I pray that this will help you. And please bring more people in. Please bring more people in. Bring more people in. Because tomorrow we're going to dive deeper. And subscribe. Now I have me a good team that can kind of help me with my podcast and that can kind of, show me some things. We're in this together. And together we can do it. Once again, thank you for listening at WMBT University of Health. Have a wonderful day.